The family of a young woman killed by her partner who had smoked cannabis daily for a decade and suffered a psychotic episode linked to schizophrenia. They're calling for an urgent review of his sentence after he was given a hospital order instead of a prison term.
25-year-old Kennedy Westcar Sabarosh was killed in a brutal 8-minute attack by Garraway Lois Tape. We're joined now by Kennedy's mum, Linda, her sister Danielle, and the chair of refuge charity Hetty Barkworth Nanton, who is campaigning on this issue. Thank you, all of you, for coming in. Linda, it's remarkable that this attack on your gorgeous daughter has not resulted in a conviction for murder with a life sentence in prison. It's not only remarkable, it feels like an abrogation of justice. What was your response and why do you think it's happened?
My response is our family are crushed at what's happened. A hospital order was handed down by Judge Freya Newbury yesterday, and for us as a family, that doesn't feel like justice. And the reason I say that is because there is no penal element to it, which means that there is no punishment attached to it. And although we don't want to undermine any mental health and any mental health challenges that people have and struggles, we do feel that justice has not been served for Kennedy, and we want that to change. We would be asking to meet with the Prime Minister to look at that, the Lord Chancellor to look at that, the Home Secretary to look at, and our MP, to look at the failures that have happened within this process. Just
to understand what happened in this case, terrible murder of your daughter, killing of your daughter, the accused then pleads diminished responsibility, that he wasn't responsible for his actions, and that is accepted by the court, by the judge, by the prosecution too. Is that what happened?
Absolutely, yes. So
everybody agrees to something in court which you think is just, I mean, doesn't make any sense because he did it.
Absolutely. So he was absolved in court of his culpability, which, as part of the Mental Health Act, culpability was low due to the mental health that was diagnosed after the event and the killing. And we were just saddened by the fact that everything was accepted, a plea was accepted, and after psychiatric assessments, it was the diminished responsibility was also accepted. And we feel that as a family and as victims ourselves, that we weren't a part of that process.
Nobody was fighting for you on your side.
Danielle, I mean, this individual is found guilty or convicted because he's pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Mm-hmm. So there is no murder conviction here. And yet, as I understand it, he has a condition which is influenced by smoking cannabis. Mm-hmm. And it's his choice to smoke cannabis. And at one stage, a doctor even says, you should stop smoking cannabis, but he ignores that instruction. And it seems to any right-minded individual that if you've had some kind of influence over your own mental state and then you kill someone as a result, that surely is not a diminished responsibility. That's utter culpability. And so, for you, losing your sister in this way, how's that left you feeling?
It's a range of feelings. I mean, I felt angry, you know, I am grieving. You know, as well, I'm a mental health therapist. I've worked in the industry for a decade, and I think adding to what my mum said about it's not saying that we don't believe that, you know, mental health issues occur and that people are suffering. But I think, you know, from my perspective, the two things can both exist. You can be mentally unwell, you can also commit a crime. And I think what we saw in our journey was that you know, it was focused solely on rehabilitation and less about the crime that was committed. And I think where psychiatrists spoke in absolutes from the perspective that he wouldn't have done that if he wasn't unwell, I don't think it was right, because then what does it say about the people that are suffering from schizophrenia that don't commit crimes, that don't kill their partners? So I think from my perspective, yes, I have built a career around helping and rehabilitating, you know, individuals, but I also feel that they should be, as my mum said, a penal element to a crime that's committed.
Feels like a get out of jail card, doesn't it, in this case? Because this guy should be, in the family's view, locked up. And Hetty, you know, you are a campaigner for people who are the victims of domestic violence. And this is a clear case of fatal domestic violence. What needs to change here? Do we need to say you can't plead guilty to manslaughter by diminished responsibility if you have somehow influenced your mental health condition?
No, it's not quite as straightforward as that. And I think your point is really well made. You know, there are many attributes to the relationship between Kennedy and Tappe that were absolute red flags in terms of the work that we do around domestic abuse. Even right back at the beginning, when their relationship first started, they separated briefly. You know, he bombarded Kennedy, he bombarded her friends to convince her to get back with him, which she eventually did. There was, you know, lots of gaslighting within their relationship. He was very jealous of her. He was very much, you know, looking in her devices. He was tracking her. There were all sorts of things. And then, literally 3 days before she was killed, she told a friend that they were on a break. Okay, so she was already saying to him that she wants to separate. All of that is very classic 8 stages to murder in terms of domestic homicide. The issue that's gone on here is that he has been able to argue that he was suffering from this mental condition, an abnormality of the mind, and there are 2 tests effectively for diminished responsibility, just to make it simple. The first is, were you suffering from an abnormality of mind? And the second is, what's the causation of the act that you did? Was that abnormality of mind the substantial reason why you did what you did? And what's happened here is that the psychiatrists have been asked to answer both sides of that test. And what they've done in doing that is they have used the abnormality of mind to completely eradicate and explain away all of the coercive and controlling behaviour and say that that was as a result of his psychosis, which is that's the test that should have gone in front of a jury, and that's the problem here. This did not see justice served because it was those fundamental debates and the debate about cannabis did not go in front of a jury, and that's the problem.
I think what's hard to understand here is, I mean, there have been other cases where defendants have claimed diminished responsibility and the prosecution has said, no, you were culpable, you knew what you were doing, that is not a good excuse. But in your case, it feels as though the Crown Prosecution Service, who you wanted to be on your side, they and their experts accepted his defence. Have they explained to you why they decided in this case that they were going to agree with his claims that he wasn't in control?
I think there was it was down to assessments of the psychiatrists, and 2 psychiatrists concurred on their assessments, and it was very difficult to challenge, I guess.
I wonder if you feel that the family should be more involved when that plea is being considered, whether you should be asked, would you like to ignore this plea and actually go ahead with a trial so that all the facts can be heard?
I think the challenge... Sorry.
Absolutely. I do believe that we were locked out from the crime against the Crown, and it has felt for us as a family and as victims that we have had no say in this matter. We haven't been consulted. We have been told what's going to happen. And I think the one thing I'd like to say is that victims in situations like this are always classed as we're emotional, and that was one of the terms used to us, that we're emotional, we're emotionally invested,
of course you
which
are.
we are,
Yes.
of course, we are. But that does not mean that that there shouldn't be transparency, and I feel that there is a need for transparency.
To be listened to.
Let's just read you what the Crown prosecution said. We accepted pleas of manslaughter by diminished responsibility against Garraway Tape only after having carefully reviewed medical evidence from experts. Nonetheless, Tape remains criminally responsible for his actions, regardless of the impact of his mental health. Members of our prosecution team will continue to be available to assist them. I presume them means the family. Do you want to leave us with your positive thoughts about your lovely sister, your gorgeous daughter?
Yeah, Kennedy was a beautiful soul. She loved life, loved her family, she loved to dance, and most of all, she loved her daughter, my granddaughter. Kennedy loved her sisters and her brother and everyone that she had around her. Kennedy met the King, the now King, and Prince back then.
Yeah. More than once.
2 occasions,
Yes.
yes, and she was invited to Buckingham Palace.
Part of her work.
Yes, as part of her work. She was an apprentice. She did an apprenticeship for 12 months with the Prince's Trust.
Amazing.
Yes, and she then went on to find a work in social media.
You must have been so proud of her.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a grievous loss.
Yes.
And when justice has not been done, it compounds, I imagine, the feelings you have.
Feels as though
every
the
single
Justice
day.
Secretary, Susanna Reid, needs to talk to you about this.
Yes, we would love that.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Hetty. Just leaves you feeling dreadful. I'm so sorry for your loss and for what you're continuing to go through.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
No, thank you for being with us.
Let's hope that on behalf of others you can make some progress, so other people don't have to go through what you've gone through.
Thank you.